Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Manic Expression Digression session. I am joined once again by my friend Martin.
And of course, I'm joined once again by my friend James. I believe that's how Siskel and Ebert used to do it. They'd introduce each other. So
Exactly.
that makes it classy as shit because we're classy fucking people.
Classy fucking people who just made a reference that most kids nowadays won't understand, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, they're dead. It's fine.
It's this thing. Just,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep,
know,
just like on the YouTube videos.
just like on the YouTube videos. The,
Yes.
the, the nostalgia critic does. Oh, wait, nobody knows who the nostalgia critic is anymore
Yeah,
either.
don't worry. They're all dead, just like Siskel and
They're
Ebert.
all dead.
Just like these memes, just like everything.
Hmm.
Our minds are stuck in the 1970s and 80s, even though I wasn't born till like 84, so we're
I
just
missed I missed the 70s by 9 days. So
Yep, so there you go. Just two grumpy old men complaining about things
grumpy old
and
man.
the podcast.
Yep. Last month we spent most of the time talking about people and events that none of you know about because they're from our manic expression past. Um, this month we're going to get more into the swing of things as far as like what we actually want to do with this podcast, which is two people who are creative and who have had successes and a lot more frustrations than that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just giving you an idea of like what it takes to uh what it takes to make it, because we kind of know a little bit about that, but even more we know what to tell you not to do when you want to, be a creative person in this day and age. And I'm gonna let Martin start because I actually don't know that much about your like pre-manic expression experiences with trying to be creative.
So here's the funny thing. I actually started like writing screenplays when I was 16 because I wanted to write. I wrote like short stories and stuff when I was in middle school and going into high school. And there was a thing going with my friends where they were writing these books that like everybody wanted to read, or books is maybe a very harsh quote. They were like maybe
Mm-hmm.
100 or so pages, novellas. And it would start us, it would be us in wacky situations like a recreation of Resident Evil or whatever was hot at the time, and I wanted in on that. But that's a lot of hard work. You have to come up with not just your story, but you also need to be able to describe what your characters are thinking, what they look like. You need to actually get the audience involved with a completely new person. And I was very, very lazy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I found out that in screenplays, you don't have to do 90% of that. You just need to have people who do things and talk. It gets a little bit more than that as you get more and more practice, but in general, you can't have a whole bunch of exposition just being like, and then he sat in a chair and he took the cigar and he looked at it, and then have 5 pages of him ruminating about his life because a cigar reminded him of how his mother fucked him up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you skip all that because that's either going to be a scene for later, or you need to give the directors, the actors, the other creative people on a set room to breathe and create themselves, because when you make a movie, it's beyond the script. It is so many different types of creative people getting together, and you need to leave room for each other. And of course, like I said, I was lazy. I was in high school. I was doing this on my lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing, and one of the things that I always kept in mind, and something that is actually an assignment if you take a writing course in college, is that you need to pay attention to how people speak. Because one thing you notice is that when you write shit down, you're going to notice that when you read it back to yourself, it sounds fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, at least your first draft. That's why all those teachers in like middle school and high school are just like, we don't accept the first draft. You always have to do the second and third. And it's like, but it was fine this one. You're basically just making me rewrite it. No, no, no. You need to say it out loud. You realize
Mm-hmm.
that's why you draft over and over again. So anyway, that's kind of where it all got started. I wanted to make little short movies, but that forced me to write first, because when you're just coming up with dialogue on the spot with friends, sure, it's great when you're just having a laugh, you get nothing done.
Yeah.
So luckily I was in a place where I had like a computer lab where I can actually record and like rent out, little digital cameras at the time. And of course edit, because I didn't have that much money. At home I had a compact computer that was so ancient, all it could really do was word process and maybe run an NES emulator.
Mm.
So that's where I got my humble beginnings. And from there, I just kind of kept on writing, just got a lot more practice. And while I did want to make the movies, because we all want to be the director, we all want to be the actor, we want to be the superstar who does something where someone says, look, you're awesome.
Mhm.
And that doesn't happen to 99% of us. So,
No, the Goodwill Hunting thing. There's like Rocky Goodwill Hunting.
mhm.
That's it. That's happened twice,
and,
really.
and look, I'll tell
So,
you, for like most of my writing career, if we want to call it a career, most of my writing hobby, I did not think I was that great. And to this day, I still don't think I'm great, but I think for the first time, like maybe a couple of years ago, I finally convinced myself, you know what? I'm pretty good at this.
mhm,
Yeah, maybe I won't become one of those epic level writers who will write the great American novel or write the screenplay that will turn the tides of cinema. Maybe I'm not even gonna get on the same fucking page as Stranger Things.
mhm.
But I think I got to the point where if I write something, it doesn't suck. It could use work, but it doesn't suck. And I think, I know that's not the thing that we should all strive for, but I think that's the first step. And honestly, I think I can still get better from there.
Well, and if it makes you feel any better, Martin wrote the animated Manic Expression movie, which is currently in production
Mhm,
now. And I've been the one who's been dealing with everybody, like the animator, the actors, all of that.
mhm.
And every single person tells me this script is funny as hell. They all tell me this is my favorite line, and it's always a different line. So that's a good sign too. When I've had conversations with people where I'm like, yeah, but what about this line? And they'll go, oh yeah, no, that line's great too. And so yeah, at least as far as the Manic Expression movie goes, you've gotten nothing but glowing praise, except from one person who was like, I don't know, this is horribly offensive. And I was like, not really,
Yeah.
but okay.
I
Like,
mean, I still take that as a pride of honor. I did
uh,
everything I could to make it as horribly offensive as I
well,
could.
and you wrote it at a time when, I mean, if you were writing the script right now,
It would be problematic.
it would be problematic. And of course, the movie, nobody's going to realize that the script wasn't written like, people go to the movies and they think, oh, the script, I can't believe they said this. And it's like, well, it was okay to say this 2 years ago when the script was written and like filming was happening and everything. Whereas with our movie, because it has next to no money behind it, the script was written, it was started like close to a decade ago and
Yeah.
finished like what, maybe 5 years ago.
It started in 2013, and then I think I finally finished it up in 2017 or 18,
Mm.
something like that. So we're talking 4 to 5 years of development.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, when it comes to a screenplay, most people will find out very quickly that unless you have the whole thing sketched out and you follow a very tight outline, you're probably going to hit some serious story snags around page 60. So I can't even tell you the amount of times I had to send James emails just when he's asking for pages saying, "Oh no, I had to spend like an extra week outlining because I didn't know where the
Mm.
hell this story was going." Because here's one thing that you guys will need to understand. When you hear about treatments and you hear about outlines, it's very boring and it can
Hmm.
be very dry. And just like how I felt all those years ago, it's like, I'm not writing a novel, I'm writing a screenplay. Why am I doing all this? It's because if you don't, you're gonna waste so many pages later.
Yeah.
There were times where I had to take 10, 20 pages, and James asked for something new. I said, "Oh, I actually had to throw away 20 pages
Hmm.
because they did not work. Just everything about the story was hot garbage. The jokes weren't good, whatever it was." And it's because I took the time to outline later on, or at least outline a little bit more often, that I was actually able to really finish the story. And let me tell you, there was, especially around draft 3, was when I started outlining even more because you're never done outlining. once you're done with your next draft, you should do another outline right away, even if it feels like it's a carbon copy, because you're gonna find new areas to go.
Mm,
Look, spend the time, get a page or two out of the way, because otherwise you're gonna have to throw away 10 or 20.
yeah. And someone who does write novels, the amount of just you know, uh, what you were saying about like the first draft, we don't accept the first draft. The first draft is always shit. Like
Hmm.
you may think that your first draft is brilliant, and then you, like you said, you go. I've never ever done an edit where I didn't read the whole thing out loud to myself, like so I could hear it.
Hmm.
And every time I'll hit that line and I'll go, oh, what what if that's not how people talk. Or I grew up in Southern California where the movies are made, where everybody wanted to be an actor and everybody was going to make it, and everybody I knew was in some way going to be a part of this business. And I was the one who was always going, fuck it, let's just write a script, let's just do it, come on, like we could do it, like Kevin Smith did it with Clerks, let's just do it. And all my friends who were talk real big about like how they were going to be these big time movie stars, I got this girl that I'm trying to bang, and I got to go to this party this weekend because she's going to be there, so I can't really do it this weekend. And like,
Ooh, Mr. Party and banging.
yeah, and
Yeah, not like
and
us, not like us
no,
real writers who's like, oh yeah, yeah, no, we're banging out the outline for our
yeah.
D&D session.
But no, in 2006, I decided after many failed film projects where it was me just trying to, do the 90s indie thing where I had a camcorder and I'd, get some friends together and we would like make a movie. I finally decided, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to uh, take one of my screenplays and I'm going to turn it into a book. Then I'm going to self-publish the book. Then I'm going to make it look like the script was written based on the book so that there's some sort of legitimacy to it. And weirdly, it kind of worked. Like I started getting meetings with people. And I got this one meeting with this guy, and the appointment was in Beverly Hills. It was on the corner of Wilshire and Rodeo Drive, which I don't know if there is a more like expensive piece of land in all of like California. And it's on the top floor. And I go up there and I'm 26 years old and scared out of my mind. And I go in there and my appointment with is with a guy named Wagner. That's it.
Wait, like the
Not like,
musician, like
but no first name. No, I don't know if it's his first name or if it's his last name. It's just Wagner. It's
just
just
some asshole
one
named Wagner.
some asshole named Wagner.
I bet
And
you looking back now you realize that was a red flag.
well, I go in and really this guy it's like a hedge fund thing. It's like these guys are sort of stockbrokers and all this stuff, but they're trying to also get into the movie business. So I go into this big meet. They've got, the giant fountain, the 2-story fountain in the lobby. And I get brought into this room, big table, and I'm sitting there. And the first thing he asks, he shakes my hand and everything, and he says, "Can we get you something? Can we get you coffee? Can we get you something?" I'm like, "No, I'm all right." So come on, let us get you something. I said, I could use a water. And he goes, "Okay, all right, fat free, okay?"
Um,
And I laughed because I thought it was a joke. And they bring me a bottle of water, about that big, fat free on the label. It's the most Hollywood thing that I've ever been a part, is somebody handing me a bottle of fat free water.
I would love to see what would have happened if you said, can I have the full fat option?
Yeah,
The fuck would
like
they
a
bring you?
fucking
Milk?
chunk of pork like floating in it. But the first thing he says to me when the meeting really gets underway is he says, "Okay, because I've got this whole portfolio. I've cast the movie. I've like I've got the crew figured out. I've literally got everything mapped out because I figure I got to go in there completely prepared.
Mhm.
I've even like got a soft maybe from Willem Dafoe's agent about like a small cameo. So I go in there and I'm like, I've got the fucking soundtrack figured out. I've got like bands who have agreed to do music. And he says, okay, how much do you think this is all going to cost? And I said, to do this right, to do it really well, I think we could do this for like $500,000. And he says to me, $500,000. Okay, that's great. But if you agree to $500,000, I'm going to hold you to $500,000. But if you tell me right now you want $1 million, $5 million, I'll get you that. So I'm sitting there and my head is just I'm trying to be calm, but like I'm losing my mind in my head. I'm just thinking, oh my fucking God, I live in like a 1-bedroom apartment right now. I'm so poor right now. And this is it. This is it. I'm about to become rich. And the meeting goes on. He's completely full of shit with everything. He's like, like I'm a big fan. He's got a copy of my book. Big fan of this book. Will you autograph this for me? Come on, autograph this for me. And like it comes out later on that he's read like 10 pages of the book. But through like that was the only like meeting I had, and I left with like, we're doing this. And then we'd have further discussions on the phone, and the discussions got more and more. The only word I can use to really fully describe it is sinister, because
Sinister.
he's basically saying, okay, all of these people that you've got picked out for your cast and everything, they're nobodies. They're nothing. Like he would use words like that. And he would say, I remember he threw out like Angelina Jolie and Paul Walker for the leads. Two completely wrong people
I
for
mean, barring
this.
that, what years are we talking about? Like what part of like where
2005, like early 2006.
okay, maybe you can get Paul Walker for a decent price. We're talking like Fast
Mm-hmm.
and Furious, but Angelina Jolie is just hot off a Tomb Raider, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, he's throwing all this out, and I'm saying, and I kept saying, because at this point I've workshopped this thing with the actors. I've really like, these people trust me. They really they like me. They're doing this because they trust me and they like me. And I'm like, these people are really good. Like these are really good actors. They're nobody. They're nothing. But what he wanted to do was he wanted to keep them around to workshop the movie. He never wanted to have them sign anything. He never wanted them to ever be promised anything, because his plan was, we will replace these people one by one with bigger names. We will never compensate them. We will never give them anything. If they say they were part of this movie, we will sue them. And I'm like feeling worse and worse and worse about myself, like the more I'm talking to this guy. And finally he says, you know what, the thing I love about your script, it's great about your script, it's about poor people, and we're going to get all these, his words, these poor suckers to give us their money because they're going to think that we identify with them. And I finally said to myself, I can't do this. Like, this is awful. I don't want to be a part of this. I feel bad just having a conversation with this person, and then having like the actors or whoever call me up and be like, oh, we're so excited, man. I've been working on this I've got like this scene memorized and I'm working on it. And I got together with this other person. And I took a couple more meetings with other people. One of them was recommended to me by the lead actress. She was like, I've got this producer friend who he was like, I don't even remember how she knew him, but like he's read the script and he really likes it. And then he's telling me, oh yeah, we're gonna get rid of all these people. We're gonna get rid of all these, like, including the woman that recommended him to me. And the final straw was, he says to me, remember at this point it's like 2006, he says to me, have you read Twilight?
Okay.
And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. Because it's 2000. Like, I think the first book had come out, the movies hadn't or anything. And I was like, I don't know what that is. He was like, well, we're going to make this into Twilight. We're going to set it in high school and we're going to have this person be this and this person be. And I'm listening and this just sounds awful. And I'm like, after the meeting, I'm like, I need to know what Twilight is. So I got online and I think Wikipedia was just starting. And so there's this Wikipedia page for Twilight and I read it. And by the end of it, I'm just like, done. I'm out. I give up. I literally moved out of LA afterward. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this at all. And this is just like the stuff that was happening to me. I knew about I heard the stories from the girls who were like, yeah, I went to this audition and this guy said if I, jerk him off, then I'll get the part. Or he said that, if I do this. And it's like, so all of the horrible things that you hear about Hollywood, 100% true. And and worse. And so I was like, I don't want to be part of this. This is just awful. And I didn't make any attempt at another movie until we decided to do the Manic Expression movie. And I never said to you, we're going to sell this to like a studio and we're going to sell the script and we're going to have them make it. I said, we're going to do this ourselves. And whatever happens to it at the end, but we're going to do this ourselves. Because I know what's out there. I've had the experiences. I know what's out there. Let's just keep this in the family. And streaming was just starting, to take off. And I was like, we'll sell it to Netflix or Amazon or somebody, but it's got to be on our terms. Because it really is sell us your soul. Sell us your soul, completely sell out, and we'll give you everything you ever wanted. Because what they're promising you, like I said, the first guy, whatever you say you want, $5 million, I'll get you $5 million. And you're thinking this is the sort of American dream. This is the dream every, like, especially kid who grew up where I grew up had, was to be in that meeting. And by the end of it, it was just like, no, I'm out. I'm done. And I've told that story so many times to so many people who are like, I'm trying to get an agent. And I'm like, try and do something else. Do something else with your life. Don't do that.
Well, and with that, I think we're going to take a quick intermission. James promised that if I give him a hand job, he will give me a movie deal. So I'm going to go take advantage of that.
All right.
See you soon after the break.
Let's get this going.
Hey folks, this is your boy Donald Wonder from the Woody Allen Retrospective Podcast, and you're watching the Manic Expression Digression session. And this great conversation as always. Don't forget to join us on the Woody Allen Retrospective Podcast, talking Woody adjacent and all the other stuff. But until then, why don't you continue watching or listening to the good discussion from these good folks? Enjoy.
And we're back. Just getting some hand sanitizer already, and get some more here. All right. So
sorry about that too. I wasn't aiming there, but happens.
I know. I understand. Luckily, it was just sawdust.
I know.
Anywho. So I guess what we should probably go into next is kind of our processes.
Mm-hmm.
So since you left off from where you had that absolutely awful agent telling you all this fucked up shit to the point where
Producer.
producer, agent, whatever. I don't know.
Agents are a different story that I
So with that in mind, what is your process when you're actually writing a novel? Because I know from the screenplay point of view, I already mentioned the outline, and I'll expound on that a little bit later.
Mhm.
But right now, books, how do you do it?
I didn't know how to write a novel until just a few years ago. I'd always written novellas and short stories. And then in 2018, I went to a writers' conference, which for those of you who don't know, writers' conference is basically you pay a lot of money to go into, for me, what was a weekend where, agents from all over the country, they come and you get to pitch your books to them and they'll do lectures and you can, participate in different things, get an idea of what the actual like professional writing world is like. And I went in there with what became these, which these are my short stories, available on Amazon, by the way. And
All right,
I went
you
in.
get your plug out of the way. You
Yeah.
get one.
And I went in and I was like, okay, I had this whole presentation. You have to have things like, they talk about the elevator pitch, which is, like one sentence, maybe two max, for you to describe exactly what your project is. And the first agent, I got 3 agents that I got to pick which ones I would go into to pitch the book. And I went in and my elevator pitch starts and it's a collection of short stories. And before I get those words out of my mouth completely, the first agent goes, "Nobody wants short stories." And it's like, and again, this took a long time to write. And we want novels. And they want, it's again, this is sort of the peek behind the curtain that I've gotten into this world. When I went and pitched, when I went to this writers conference where I got to pitch, I'm listening to the agents talk. They'll do lectures and stuff. And this one agent says to this crowd full of people who have paid $500 to be there, "Do any of you have the Hunger Games? I want the Hunger Games." And I heard this from all the agents that I spoke to. All the agents was, "We want YA novels. We want the Hunger Games." I heard that over and over from different agents. "We want the Hunger Games," which of course, when they say that, what they actually mean is they want Maze Runner. They want Divergent. They want the thing that is aping off of the Hunger Games. And if you don't have that, it's a lot like what I also imagine it's like pitching a movie nowadays in Hollywood. If is it a superhero movie? You have a superhero movie, we'll listen to that. If you have something else, well, we're not as interested, And so I was faced with this thing of like, I have to write a novel. If I have any chance of having a career, I have to write a novel. So I literally had to Google, how long does a novel have to be? Like, how many pages, how many words? And I said, all right, this is my goal. This is what I have to hit. And that was the first time in my life where I really sat down to write a thorough outline, where it was, I have to know who these characters are. I have to know what I'm writing, because my process was always like, sit down on day one and it's an adventure. I don't know where this is going. And with a novel, it has to be, okay, I have to get them from here to here to here to here to here. And there's room for, you know, exploration, there's room for discovery, but you've got to know where you're going with it. And it was actually easier than I thought it would be when I got rolling. The problem is I didn't write the Hunger Games. I'm not really capable of writing the Hunger Games, and especially with what they were saying in 2018, which was, and I could only imagine what they're saying now, which was, we want the Hunger Games with a black lead. We want the Hunger Games with a trans lead. They don't want that book from this guy. So that was out. And also too, I don't want to write the Hunger Games. I have no interest in writing the Hunger Games. So I wrote the book that I wanted to write, which you are now writing a screenplay based off of.
Yep, very slowly, and we'll get to that one too.
But you know, and again, I don't want to, because I've got an agent right now who's out pitching this book to different publishers and stuff. So I don't want to talk too much about like what's actually in this novel. But it wasn't until like I start rereading it and I'm like, okay, I did it. I wrote this like this novel that agents are going to want. And somewhere in it, I have an alcoholic who wakes up in the morning, he has diarrhea, but he gets sick from being hungover, and then he pukes into the toilet, and he's then faced with his shit. And he's like, and I'm going, oh God, no, wait. This isn't what they want either. And I got to go through the awful process of seeking out an agent, which is rejection after rejection after rejection. And then, oh, wait, we kind of like this. Would you let us read the rest of it? Oh, wait, no, we don't want it. You know, just enough to kind of get your hopes up and then have them dashed. And I still say that one of the reasons I ended up getting an agent was because lockdown happened. And this agent was stuck in her beach house, you know, far away from, she was in New York, so she wanted to get the hell out of that city. And I think she was just stuck there with nothing else to do. And it was like this book that normally you'd read maybe the first couple pages and then you would go, this isn't commercial or this isn't whatever. She read more, and she told me that her daughter, who was in college, read it, and she said, this one, Mom, this one. And she told me, I don't get books like this that come across my desk very often, which I've since figured out it's a compliment, but it's also like there's a reason that you don't get books like this that come across your desk very often, because and I think it's gotten worse. I think it's gotten worse in the 2 years since I got my agent, where this is true of books, this is true of movies, this is true of so many things right now, where nobody wants to take any chances. And I feel like this is the most creative time like ever, because of YouTube, because of self-publishing, and you could put out your own music, you could put out your own, you know, comic book, you could get it crowdsource funded, you could make your own animated movie. And it's also the least creative time ever as far as mainstream things go, because everything has to be, it has to fit in the box. It has to fit into, this is what's popular right now, right this second. One of the things that I was told by agents, as far as like when you pitch your book, because the other thing they want is they want what's called comp titles. So your book is like another book, right? That book better have been published in the last 5 years, because if you say my book is like To Kill a Mockingbird, they'll go, what? What's that? My book is like Grapes of Wrath. Okay, we don't know that one. Their agents tend to be the least literate people. What they are is they follow trends. They're looking at what's popular. And so this is why, to me, like, and this is a little bit of a plug, but it's for something that isn't ready yet.
I already gave you a yellow card, man.
Which is, you know, I wrote a second novel after the first one. I presented it to my agent, and she said, no, no. And so that novel, I'm just going to self-publish, and it will be coming out in October. And you know, it's the exact, like, if you could imagine saying to an agent who's looking for the trendiest thing possible, I have written an adaptation of Mozart's Don Giovanni, and I've set it in 1974. That's the worst possible thing that you could pitch to an agent. They're going to hear that and they're going to go, there is no audience for that. And you hear that a lot from agents. There is no audience for that. And what I've discovered is that, yes, there is. There's an audience for everything. You just have to find it. And so really my advice for people as far as that goes is, if you've got something that you've written that you're really passionate about, and you really want to get it out there, now is the time to do it yourself. You know, you don't have to rely on the agents to get it out there for you.
Well, and I guess that smashes right into where I come from, or where I come in. You know, I don't have quite as much behind the scenes experience as you. Yeah, I grew up in fucking Boston. You know, my name is some jerk from Boston for a reason. I'm just some guy who just lived not even in like downtown Boston. I grew up in East Boston. You know what's there? The airport. There are better restaurants now, and so now you can be like, oh yeah, that's the whatever, I don't know, whatever 4-star, 5-star place. Beyond that, it was the airport and like Centarpio's. And anyone who lived in East Boston knew that Centarpio's was garbage, and everyone else came from outside and praised it because they don't know what a fucking pizza tastes like. And I will go on the record for that. I will fight you. Kelly's Pub or nothing. That being said, the closest I came was I was interviewing to be a PA on a documentary that a Harvard professor was putting on, and he was interested in my writing, so I gave him one of my scripts. It was just a short script. It was what I was working on. It was my second draft of it was a what was it? It was my interpretation of A Shadow Over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. And I was actually making strides with that story. I finally broke it and was finding a way in. And guess what? Motherfucker didn't give me the job, and he certainly didn't give me back that script. So I officially had his script stolen. So that was the closest I came to Hollywood. Someone ripped me off. I still have the first draft somewhere with all my notes over it, but I did so much work on that second draft, and I don't remember what I did. So I just kind of gave up on it. That being said, that didn't stop me from writing. And so I guess if anyone wants a whole bunch more stories or like fun little anecdotes, I'm not sure how many I can give you, but I'll try not to make this a dry lecture that you could just get at any college or any drop-in course. What it all comes down to is kind of what James said. You need to have a passion, and you need to get that first draft out, and you do need to understand that it sucks. But it's all of your ideas. It's everything come together, and when you get to that final page at the end where you fade out, you're going to realize that you have something. And it's going to be your blood, sweat, and tears, and you're going to be proud of it. And even though it sucks, you need to be proud of it, because that's where the work begins. That is where you need to actually sit down and do your real writing. The real writing comes after you get the story out.
100%.
But going back to how you even get started with the story, let's flash back. You got a story about, say, I don't know, let's take a superhero story. You know, we're doing a whole bunch of these. Why not? So you have your superhero story. You know, you need to have a conflict. You need to have a big bad. How do I make it unique? First things first, you need your characters, because everything about your story is stemming from your characters. So before you even jot down how you get from A to B to C to D, why is your character special? And here's how I do that. I try to listen to people and I pay attention to them. And not only do I try to get their vernacular down and like their speech patterns and how they would talk, I try to understand like kind of what makes them tick. Maybe I'll ask questions or I'll just ask for stories. Or a lot of the times it'll be based off my friends or people who I already know. So then what I do is I just take a little bit from here, I take a little bit of here, and I certainly take a little bit from here. Just about every character I have will always come from a part of me because it's all filtered through me anyway. And there are people who are very talented out there who can actually do the opposite. They can just create it from whole cloth. That's the difference between someone who's like an artist who can just draw fantastically without a lesson and those who just practice doing like eyes over and over and over again until they finally get it right and they can piece it together and finally come up with a portrait. I'm more of that latter person. I'm not talented enough to come up with something from whole cloth, so I take my experiences and a lot of how I see things and I try to form them into a character. And the other thing I don't think about, because my stories don't generally revolve around any sort of social issues, I actually don't think about gender or race or anything like that. Now I know there are people like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You can't just ignore that. It's like you can't have a human story. If you have a black character, he's going to interact very differently than a gay character. He's going to react very differently than a privileged white guy or from somebody who's foreign living in America or vice versa. So how the hell can you do that? And my answer is, remember when I told you about people leaving room open for interpretation? That
Yeah.
people can interpret my words however they want.
Let's just, I mean, the agents that you will submit your books to are 99% in New York. And when you read, like, what are we looking for? We're looking for LGBTQ. We're looking for Black joy is a thing that I kept seeing over and over again. They're very much looking for like those social issues. And so it just got up in my head of like, I don't know how to do this without like, and I had to get past it. I had to just say, you know what, this character is Black because I've decided this character is Black. This character is gay because I've decided this character is gay. I'm the writer. You've got to be writing your stories, script, book, whatever, for yourself first. And if you're okay with what you've written and you are comfortable that you've done it in good faith and everything, I'm not saying you won't get pushback, but you've got to write for yourself first.
Yeah, but when it comes to character formation, it's definitely something that I will always take away from the movie Alien, is that when they wrote it, they had nothing in mind except the characters. So even if that's not where I end up, let's say that it does end up that exploring a certain aspect will result in a more well-rounded character or might even improve the story. That's still not where I start because I need to see these as people first. And if I try to think of, oh, well, how will a woman handle this situation? Or how about someone who is, great. White guy forgets every other nationality on the earth, go figure. What about someone who's Puerto Rican, somebody who's classified as American but saying is Latino? How does that affect? If that's a part of the story, sure, we can develop that. But if I'm writing a movie about dumbasses like us going to the internet to try to make a writing career, then no, I'm not going to focus on specifically what, that type of background. Unless, of course, it's like our movie and it is based off real people. And honestly, sometimes if I would put something in there that that is reflective of any type of those social issues, it's usually because I'm basing it off somebody I know, and it's because that is how they needed to take that part of them to grow into it. If I don't understand it, I'm not going to write it. And I have thoughts about those producer people, but since I'm trying to get through, I still have a whole lot more to cover. We'll just say that they are not doing this with the best interest. They are people who are making investments, and that are the people who are spending the most amount of money right now. And that's the type of things that make money. That's why they're asking for YA novels. We're living in a time where society is being challenged. So those type of books, whether it be fiction or real life, is going to sell more. But beyond that, let's talk about the actual writing of the script. So now we have our characters based around however you decided to mold them. Now you can put them in your story and you can see them react. Again, this is where your outline should start. If you want to just write your first draft and explore, mazel tov. If you hit that 60-page mark and you have to put it down and start over, that's where you should remember to start your outline. That's your first draft. Put it down. That being said, just so you don't have to waste 60 pages to figure out that it doesn't work, start your outline. And they only need to be like a paragraph per scene. And really just lay it down like scenes. And now I guess we can talk about the 3-act structure. Because you're going to hear a bunch of people complain about the 3-act structure and how this person doesn't use it or this person doesn't use it. I think people see it too much like something that inhibits you, especially the people who are trying to invest in a movie are going to be like, well, what's your 3-act structure? What's that? It's because they've just been rigidly told again and again, it's this thing that you have to follow. But really, it's just the backbone. All right. This is something that's been polished time and time again to make sure that us as human beings take in information and convey it outwards into a narrative that makes sense. There's a reason why your arc goes kind of like this. And that's because you want to have the rising action. You want to make those connections. And no, you're not stupid if you do it, if you don't understand it, if it's done a different way. It's just because this is the easiest way to flow information. And when you sit down and you actually start writing and you're trying to get that information flowing, it's good to have a starting point. You take your act 1, and you can do that 1,000 different ways. Let's think about your favorite burger. Maybe you just like a bacon cheeseburger. Maybe you like one of those ones like the barbecue burger where they put onion rings on it. Maybe you like one of those weird fucking concoctions where they put like bacon and peanut butter and all that shit on there. Well, guess what? They're not all different meals. They're all still burgers, but you've done amazingly weird, unique, and different things with them. And so if you're going to fight against the 3-act structure because you want to be different, because you want to be the David Lynch, you have to understand that there are consequences that go with that, and most people may not want to see your work. And you also might find it hard to actually keep your thoughts together because you're not keeping things constrained. If you want to break out of the 3-act structure, you first need to practice the 3-act structure. And then, or at the very least, you need to put your movie into a 3-act structure and then tear it apart, tear it up. Put it in different orders. Just make sure that you're conveying the information. And one thing I will say, most people who have, who say, oh, well, Pulp Fiction doesn't use a 3-act structure, or like the David Lynch movies may not use, like a Mulholland Drive may not use your typical 3-act structure. I would say, well, bullshit. Sure, they're told out of order. They're told differently. But you still have the same amount of information. You're setting up characters, you're coming up with situations, and even if what happens here happens before here or even here, what you've done is you've given people enough information to follow that character through to an arc, because time does not necessarily show the complete arc of a character. That may sound weird, but generally the arc of a character is for the audience, not for the actual person, because that person doesn't exist. And
Eraserhead might be weird, but Eraserhead has a story.
Yeah. Pulp Fiction, when you get to that final act, you're not saying, well, what was the point of that last scene? It's because it rounds out everything that you were told about your characters, about the entire exploration of the subject of a pulp story. that's concepts work into that 3-act structure, just like people talking, and you have the superhero learn their powers, then they meet their bad guy and they fight their bad guy, and then they're losing against the bad guy, but oh my god, then we have the turn and I learned more and then I beat the bad guy. Yeah, sure, sometimes it's that simple, but other times it could be just organizing themes and solutions into a way that flows. And look, if you are really, really good at telling a story a certain way and it gets your point across, fuck everything I just said. That's what it all comes down to. If you do something and it works, then everything that I say, everything that the agents or the other writers or the producers, if it works, fuck them.
Yeah.
Because then it will speak for itself. And that's my process. Because I guess if you want to call it a box, I put myself into a box with my characters and I organize myself and I work and I work and I work, because only by getting everything across to your own self and by working it through are you going to actually get to a conclusion. And the other thing that you'll see is you'll hear about some writers who are like, oh, I just, they just sat down in a room, they banged it out, and guess what? They sold a million copies. 9 times out of 10, that's a bullshit story that the writer did not. They absolutely did not say don't tell that story, because it makes them look really, really good. I guarantee you that every crazy alcoholic that stayed into a room and drank themselves into a Pulitzer Prize winning story, after they sobered up, banged out a few more drafts just to make sure. And guess what? That includes this guy right here. How much of the Manic Expression movie do you think was written just fueled by amphetamine? At least 2 drafts.
And that's where the genius comes from.
No, so. I'll tell you this much too. Look, if you are going to be the person who thinks that you're going to be the next James, right off the top of your head, because you know more people than I do, what is
Hunter S. Thompson?
If you think you're going to be the next Hunter S. Thompson, one thing you need to realize is that when you write on a substance, it sucks. It's as bad, if not worse, as your first draft. When I was on my ADD meds, 2 or 3 times over, my God, I thought everything I was writing was brilliant. The good thing is I wrote it down, and it was just like that first draft. I got the ideas out. But then Silver Me had to sit down and just be like, oh my God, I have to actually make this into a story now. So just remember that. If the end point to all of your process needs to understand that it's only what you are willing to put into it that matters, and that there is no shortcut to actually doing the work. And it is, even though you love your story and you love your characters, and it is tedious and boring and you're just writing the same things over and over again, when you see that final draft for this screenplay, I think it was 6 drafts, maybe 6.5. When you finally get there and it's working and people are reading and actually loving it, that's when you know that you have a process that works.
And the thing too that I think is important outside of just being self-critical is also being open to criticism from other people. Because I know that, like, the most important opinion that I got when I was writing my novel was who was it I sent it to? I sent it to some asshole. I can't remember who exactly. Some dick from Boston or something like that. I don't remember.
You know what? He's not even worth your time.
No.
Some fucking guy. Who is he?
I don't know. But I sent it to him. And the very first criticism the first thing in the email when I get it is he says to me, there's this one scene in the book that was so fucking stupid that I wanted to get on a plane, fly across the country, and punch you in the face for having written it.
Sounds like me, and I don't even remember what scene it was.
That being said, this is the best book that I've read in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It was because of the honesty in that first part that I believed what was said in the second part. But it was also like, what I did was I then looked at that scene. I was like, oh, fuck, I really fucked up in that scene. And it was like, this would never happen. There's no reality to this scene. This is bullshit. And I was like, okay, well, I kind of need this scene. How do I make this scene work? How do I take what was bullshit about it, get rid of that, but keep and bring a reality to it? And it required doing some research, and it required talking to a person who was in a certain profession. Again, I don't want to talk too much about what the book is about, because it's, I've got an agent shopping it around, and talking to that person, being like, okay, this is what needs to happen. How would this happen? And this person was like, well, okay, under these conditions. And I was like, okay, fine. And I went in and I made those changes. I have met so many people who they say, give me your honest opinion about what I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, it was great. There's this one part. Fuck you. Fucking asshole. All you're doing is shitting on me. No, you have to take that criticism in. You have to accept it. You have to say, I'm not perfect. I didn't write a masterpiece right out the gate, and what can I do to improve it?
Mm-hmm.
I think listening to other people's opinions, for me, as far as with especially the novels, has been as important as me being sort of self-critical. Because I can be self-critical all I want, but if I really like something, I'm going to keep it in. I'm not going to maybe see the glaring problem with it that another person would see. So,
and one thing that when you are receiving criticism, what you have to understand is, if you had your way and that guy's a fucking asshole, I am changing it, he's wrong. These are also your readers.
Yeah.
These are the people who are watching your film. If you are wrong and they are right, congratulations. Everyone now hates you for your stupid fucking scene or your stupid fucking, movie. So in the end, take it. If some of them will be valid, some of them will make you scratch your head and wonder why. You can always ask them more specifics. Never try to, you don't want to back them into a corner so they feel like their opinion is invalidated. But you do want to try to drill down to where you can be better, because you always need to attack it as you are trying to be better. You are not trying to just, completely ignore what they have to say. Because, in the end, if you leave it in and everyone has the same critique, suddenly you're also the guy who's like, everyone just got it fucking wrong. It's like,
yep.
Yeah, or you're an asshole.
Or you're an asshole.
And you don't want to be an asshole. Or at least you don't want people to think you're an asshole.
No, you can be an asshole. Just don't let people think you're an asshole.
Yeah, that's my career.
Fool them all, trick them all. But on that note, I guess we will wrap up this second episode of Digression Session. Next month, these first two ones we wanted to sort of set up who we are and what we're talking about. But next month, we want to bring in somebody very special who we have known for many, many, many years now, who is one of the stars of the Manic Expression movie, but who is also the internet personality with the best hair.
That's right, Jesus Christ. We have all sat down and realized he has risen.
Or it's Decker Shadow.
Or it's Decker.
But yes, next month we will have Decker Shadow on to talk about his rise to internet celebrity and why he continues to associate with the likes of us.
Yeah, he still talks to us for some reason, so I guess it's worth us talking to him.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right.
And that will be in the next episode of Digression Session. Thank you, Martin, for joining me again.
Thank you, James, for killing an hour and a half with me.
And thank you for that little thing that you did during the break. Again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about.
I did have to change up my contacts, but it's all right.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Adios.